You Booked It, episode 139. What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining me today on You Booked It, the #1 podcast where you learn how to create a successful entertainment career. Every episode is a masterclass on how to move your career forward. And if you want even more, head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the email community where we dig deep into what you can be doing right now to help book that next gig. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Blair Farrington. Are you ready for this, Blair?
I'm as ready as I'm going to be.
Beautiful. Blair is the CEO of Farrington Entertainment and Productions and has dedicated his professional life to creating world-class theatrical wonderment for audiences around the world as a producer, director, choreographer, and entertainment consultant. Blair started his career as a trained dancer-actor until the age of 26, a career-ending injury while portraying James Bond on the 1982 Academy Awards telecast forever changed his world. Blair then switched his focus and moved his talents and influence to behind the camera. Blair has since produced and directed the live productions for celebrity residency announcements for Britney Spears, Mariah Carey, and Gwen Stefani. He's also directed and choreographed Caesar's 50th anniversary celebration starring Tony Bennett and Jennifer Lopez. He's currently directing The Piano Man at the Mosaic Theater on the Las Vegas Strip and working as a producer developing musicals for Broadway and the West End. Blair, that is a insanely quick and reduced intro of what you've done. I'm telling you, everyone, the people that Blair has worked with, the projects that he's worked on is insane. You just got to look him up. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry?
Hey, thank you for having me for starts. I think this is a great thing that you're bringing to all the entertainers around the world. It's very, very nice.
Oh,
I
thank
was
you so
born.
much.
I was born in New York City. My parents were both professional opera singers in New York and on Broadway. We then moved out to Scottsdale, Arizona when I was 3 years old. I immediately became addicted to dance. I found some amazing teachers and studied ballet, tap, jazz, acting from the age of 6. I performed as a tap dancing paperboy in the musical Gypsy, which was my first equity show at 10 years old. I've lived in Las Vegas since 1975 with my wife, Uni. We live on a small ranch with 2 horses, 2 dogs, a cat, 6 koi fish, and a Pioneer parrot. Oh, and a gecko. I know, we're crazy. After my career as a performer, I opened Farrington Productions in the mid-'80s. I produce, develop, direct, sometimes choreograph, and write original stage and theatrical productions, music acts, entertainment attractions, press events, television, and corporate events. I also have a large costume inventory from all the years of owning a costume design and manufacturing house, Imagination Costume, and have delivered to clients like Disney, Bette Midler, Cher, Broadway clients, and more.
Whoa, yeah.
Yeah. So a few
So
things.
many things.
A couple of big things in Vegas was the show in the sky at the Rio was a $25 million attraction that won Best Live Show attraction in the world in '98. It ran for 17 years. So that was a pretty substantial piece of business. And I also recently did a video for Celine Dion announcing her world tour courage and her closing at Caesar's Palace.
Ah, very cool and so epic, all those things. And let's move on to our first section here. And Blair, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
Okay, this is probably not an exact quote, but it's definitely has the meaning of what it is that happened. I had an acting coach in LA, a really good one, for quite a few years. And he said something that always stuck with me. He said, if you want to be an actor, you need to love the learning and the process of honing your craft. Don't pursue a career if it's only about booking jobs and making money. It sounds very counterintuitive, but it really applies to all areas of performance, dancers, singers, anybody that's out there in the creative arts.
For sure, because you will burn yourself out so fast if you're just going for the line on the resume.
It's so true. It is so true. That quote has really rung true for me and was what I would say a healthier way to manage my intention and day-to-day activities as an artist, especially as a young artist. And like I said, it applies to all the performing arts, dancing, singing, musicianship, writing. So I understood that being dedicated to class, workshops, and just loving that process. If I booked a gig, I always looked at that like that's great, but it was like icing on the cake. I was addicted to really as a dancer to going to class. And so that's how I really got my feedback and really felt so fulfilled from just dancing every day. So acting and the performing arts is a very challenging profession to sustain in. So the quote really helped me be grounded, and it's provided a level of control in my life. You can always choose to study and go to class, but getting a booking and getting the next gig through auditions is really up to fate. You just don't know. Now, there's, of course, there's a financial implication of how do I pay my rent, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad that you brought that up. You said it gave you control over your life. And I think that is so pertinent in that concept. That idea has come up multiple times with other guests that have been on the show, in that saying, look, you need to control the things you can control.
Absolutely.
Because that's where the joy is, but also that's where your focus should be, because there's nothing you can do about booking that gig.
No.
It's just another piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. And even if you're going to go see and auditions all day, you never know which jobs you're going to get and you're not going to get. And I just found out early on that if you're really focused on the process and the passion for that will get you through.
Absolutely. So great. Once again, for you to say that and to just reiterate from so many wonderful people that have also been on this show. And I think that's also a big reason why this podcast has become so important for entertainers and aspiring entertainment professionals, because we're hearing again and again and again these consistent things that keep coming up. And those are the things that we need to start paying attention to. And that's what you can really start taking away and applying to your career immediately.
Absolutely.
Yes. And let's get into this next section here. And Blair, of course, you are an entertainment professional. I'm an entertainment professional. And I think that you'd agree that this industry can be one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, there's an outrageous amount of fun and excitement doing what we do, there are also our fair share of obstacles, challenges, failures that we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
I've had many challenges, obstacles, and failures. You haven't been in the business as long without having all that stuff. But I would say the one thing that really stands out to me is when I was 26 years old, at the height of my dance career, I got cast as James Bond on the Academy Awards in 1982, opposite Sheena Easton, who sang For Your Eyes Only. And at the height of my career, I actually was injured and severed 3 of your 4 cruciate ligaments. In football, they call that a triple triad. So my doctors and surgeons gave me a very negative prognosis. When I came out of surgery, they told my wife that I would never dance again and probably need to walk with a cane the rest of my life.
Whoa.
So it actually made me angry. And I decided to use that as fuel to show them that I was going to come back as a professional dancer. So it forced me to stop, to do some major soul searching, to look at myself and understand that I might not ever dance again. My entire identity was wrapped up in being a dancer. And if dancers, the ones that are dedicated, totally relate to that. I did 18 months of intense and painful physical therapy, but the mental anguish I faced with dance being taken away from me was really the most devastating. I felt like my entire identity had been wiped clean. So I had physical therapists in LA and in Vegas, and I traveled back and forth. Once I completed my physical therapy, I did make it back to performing professionally, but it was like Groundhog's Day at every job. I'd find myself dancing on the Emmys, doing a kick line when that horrible pain would hit my knee, and I'd be, oh boy, am I going to make it through this number? Then after the show, I'd be icing my knee in the dressing room. And I came to the realization then that I was probably not going to be dancing at the same level as I had pre-injury. So I had too much respect for the art of dance that coming back at anything less than 100% for me was not acceptable. So during my 2-year recovery, I dove into the acting and had a high caliber acting coach, which gave me that quote at a black box theater in LA, and working with all working stage, TV, and film actors. It was very intimidating, but was a huge period of immense growth as an actor and as a director. So during this cathartic process, I ended up taking the negative aspects of my injury and turning it into an energy that gave me positivity and showed me a way of going behind the camera and finding a new creative journey. So I opened Farrington Productions and never looked back.
Oh, that's such a good journey. And it's so great that you created something so wonderful and so impactful for this industry through, if it wasn't for that injury, I can imagine the production company would have never really taken off and been what it
No,
is today.
it wouldn't. I would have still been out there trying to get every job and doing what you love, which was studying and working. So absolutely, it wouldn't have happened till much later if it was going to happen.
Yeah. And let's move on to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in the entertainment industry. Tell us about that.
I have two short ones. So one was as a young performer. The spotlight moment was when I was 21. I got booked to do a TV special playing John Travolta from the Saturday night film, Saturday Night Fever, which had just come out.
Yeah.
Tell you how old I am. And I partnered Cher in a disco number that was shot in Culver City on the Gone with the Wind soundstage. And I sat back and said, wow, this is like so overwhelming, but so exciting. I knew then that this business was where I belonged. The
Oh,
other,
so cool.
the other is after my performing career, everything became crystal clear. So I designed and rendered a new multi-use venue concept for a high-tech theater in the Round at the Rio Hotel. The owner architect approved and turned my rendering into an architectural reality. At the same time, I was tasked with creating an interactive new musical experience that would open the venue, and it turned out to be the award-winning Copacabana dinner show that transformed into Club Rio after that, the first in-house casino nightclub that started the wave of nightclubs in Las Vegas. All the stars aligned, and it was one of the most fulfilling and personally rewarding projects in my career. It was an exciting expansion of kind of new business and new design capabilities.
Oh, that's so cool. And how fortunate as well that you had a team of people that were like, yeah, saw the vision and were like, yeah, we're on board with this. Let's do this.
Yeah, and it's funny, as I was going through the process, I thought, Blair, this is probably never going to happen again. That you're actually in the middle of this theater getting built and designing a custom show for the theater. It just doesn't work like that. It's just so I knew I was fortunate, and it just happened. That's really one of my fondest shows I've ever done as well.
So cool. And let's piggyback on that question real quick and talk
Okay.
about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
So it's kind of a strange one, but 2 years into my recovery from my knee surgery, I auditioned for the Broadway show Cats that was actually auditioning in Los Angeles. I'd always wanted to do this show as the choreography matched my technical ballet and modern training.
Hmm.
So it was a very hot and smoggy July day in LA and a grueling 10-hour audition at the Masonic Temple on Hollywood Boulevard. It was a cattle call of over 800 people, and the cuts continued all day, and the groups kept getting smaller and smaller. So the choreography routines for the males were very challenging and extremely physical. I made it through all the cutbacks and then the singing. Jillian Lynn, who is the original choreographer, kept me, and she kept calling me back to dance solo over and over. And then she'd bring me back to sing over and over. So
Oh,
I worked it physically to my absolute limit. She then called me over to the table and said she'd like to offer me the role of either McCavity or Alonzo. At this point, my knee was swollen, throbbing, and feeling very unstable.
yeah.
It was a dream to be offered a role in this production, but I ended up turning it down. I explained my condition and told Miss Lynn I was flattered and excited to do the show, but my knee would never make it through rehearsals. Anyway, it was a bittersweet moment that I will never forget, but I proved to myself that I could do it, and I was smart enough to not go down that path.
Such a great story and so many lessons to be learned as well. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing that.
no, yeah, that was a big moment for me.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. And let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And it's a crazy, weird time, right? We're amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Yeah, so, like everybody else, it's been very strange. I have been working on a number of things during this crazy period. So, I just finished directing and co choreographing a new show called The Piano Man at the Mosaic Theater on the Strip. It's this beautiful little theater that they put a lot of work into, a lot of time and love and passion. It's the music of Billy Joel and Elton John, starring Kyle Martin, who's like an amazing talent. So we just opened, a matter of fact, October 8th.
Cool.
It's the first venue to open on the strip, along with two other shows there, the Queens of Rock and Aussie Heat. So that's been a really big deal. And I'm telling you, we've been like waiting and waiting for, the governor to make new guidelines that were going to enable us to actually do a show. And we're lucky in that venue that we can do the new 25 feet distance from the stage to the first audience. And then there has to be 6 feet between all the tables. There's a second level. We've been able to pull that off. I think we can see 125 max. And it's a small show. So once again, it's not a big, huge production, although it's all live musicians and a couple of dancers and just a lot of talent and great music.
Very cool. And the Mosaic Theater, where is that on the strip so people can go check it out?
Yeah, it's just north of the MGM, and actually even just north of Planet Hollywood, the restaurant. And it's just like down a little alley right off the strip, but it's a little jewel. And I'm just very happy that to me, it's like a little bit of light just cracked through the door. And I'm hoping that more of this is able to spill out into the rest of Vegas and the entertainment community. So I've been in rewriting, and I'm going to be directing a new show called A Mob Story. It's about a former Las Vegas mob boss, Michael Francese, and that's scheduled to open in 2021. So that's exciting. And I'm also developing a few other little Vegas projects that we'll see if they happen or not, but I am keeping busy. So that part's been good. And I've been working with a digital media company out of Chicago, developing some potential music events and concerts using new digital technologies. This would be for like live virtual and streaming virtual events and concerts. There's just a lot going on in that it's a wild new frontier. It's been different, and I'm not necessarily the most tech savvy guy, but people like me just have to understand and learn how to use that stuff in ways that help support productions. And then I'm also, and this has been a thing that's been going on for a couple of years, I'm acting as a producer on trying to get a few, believe it or not, Broadway and West End shows up. And
Oh, very cool.
they're all based on biographies, names like James Dean, Mozart, Betty Page, and the Nicholas brothers. Once again, I'm just praying for Broadway too, that they can figure out how to come back.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the Piano Man show at the Mosaic,
Mm-hmm.
so you've obviously had to restructure the entire space and because it's very unique, right? You have to have the certain guidelines and how many people
Yep.
you can be in the room. Do you see that trend happening? Not just because out of necessity, but do
Mm-hmm.
you see the trend of the smaller intimate show continuing on?
I do, actually. I really think that we're in a major period of transition in entertainment, of which no one really has all the answers. But
Right.
once we're past this COVID crisis, it's like the switch is not going to flip on and everything goes back to normal. So I do think smaller, less expensive shows are likely, depending on how successful these vaccines are. There may be a lot of renegotiating that comes down between all the financial variabilities with artists, unions, producers, promoters, venues, everything that costs something. I personally think there's going to be some adjusting that's going to have to go on there. However, I am hopeful that we are resilient and will be resilient and forge ahead. We will find solutions and bring the excitement of live entertainment back.
Wonderful. Thank you for that insight. And it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one
Absolutely.
after another. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Great. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
I have to say, really, nothing held me back. I committed early to wanting to do this as a career. And yeah, that was a pretty simple one for me.
Brilliant. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Of course, used to see Anne Margaret's show a lot. I worked with Julia Prowse, and back in those days, Shirley MacLaine and those folks, it was a small, close knit family. And Anne Margaret looked at me in the eyes and once told me, don't ever give up. And just those little words were like, oh, okay. And you look at someone like her who have done everything, but even people who've made it, you don't know what they've gone through to get there.
Right.
And I think that ability to just step back up and brush yourself off and keep going, figure it out. So those words meant something to me.
Yeah. What is that other quote? They say an overnight success takes years or something like that. It takes decades.
Absolutely.
It's when everything begins to hit, you go, man, there was a giant journey behind all of that that just usually never gets talked about.
Yeah, you're right. I agree.
Yeah. And the third question, what is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
I would say that for me, dealing with a handful of talented artists and entertainment industry suppliers that are dedicated to push through this rather dark period and keep the passion for the business going, even when it looks bleak and feels dark. So those are things for me.
Great. And the fourth question, what is your best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast or piece of technology you've found is helping your career right now?
For me, it certainly is not just one thing. It's definitely kind of an organic situation. But I would say connecting with people on the internet, sometimes on Zoom conferences, private messenger, cell phones, the usual suspects. There are technological advancements with digital technology that will become more integrated into my career life as I move forward.
Yeah, cool. Tech, man,
Yeah,
this whole process of, or the whole experience of COVID has really expedited the use of technology. It's always been there. We've always had a lot of these platforms around, but we rely on them so heavily now. And it really has expedited
we
its
do.
integration into our lives and into this industry.
Absolutely.
And the fifth question, if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I would say that I would follow my passion and creative interest as I have, but I would slow down at times and make perhaps better strategic business and hiring decisions along the way. So that's a broad answer, but those are some things that I would do differently.
Yeah. And the last question, what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in this industry you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I would say pursue your passion, follow your dreams as an artist, but understand that this is not always a fair business. And if what you're looking for is a stable financial and secure life, this may not be the career path for you. to choose. But even if someone had told me this, it wouldn't have stopped me from following the passion and the destiny. So yeah, it really truly is about finding things that you love and doing them. And that's, I think, what separates us from a lot of people out there in the world that never have liked what they do. And they spend so much time doing it, they tend to not be as happy people.
Yeah, could not agree more. I have a lot of friends, a lot of people that I know that I grew up with. I'm not that old, but I tell you what, they look substantially older than I do, and we're the same age. You know what I mean? Because life has just been unenjoyable, and there's not a lot of passion for what they do in their day to day.
No,
And I think
absolutely.
that really comes across.
Yeah, like I know a lot of people, friends of mine, who studied to be lawyers, and once they became a lawyer, they're like, I don't like this. I don't want to do this the rest of my life. They studied, they did their thing. Maybe that stuff, that knowledge is helping them in some other area. But yeah, it's hard. But I think that really children too, from a young age, should start getting connected more to things that they really like doing. I just think that's very important, finding a passion.
100% agree. And to wrap up this interview, Blair, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Really, right now, I would say go see the shows at the Mosaic. The shows are Queens of Rock are at 7. The other shows are at 8:30, which is Piano Man, and Ozzy Heat's at 10. And they are, at this point, running Thursday through Sunday. And they should just go to mosaiconthestrip.com, and you can buy tickets online.
Beautiful.
So I would say that's the thing. Right now, we just all need to try to support one another in those ways and whatever ways we can, and just show the world that we can come back, and we can come back safely. We're not trying to do things to make this disease worse. We want this disease to go away. But I feel like we've needed to find that place where we can coexist with this problem and still be productive, maybe with compromises, but still be productive in what we do.
All righty.
Yeah.
And for everyone listening out there, I have put all the links to everything Blair just said in the description of this episode, so you can easily check out all those shows at the Mosaic. And also, be sure to share this podcast with your fellow entertainers, coaches, teachers, or anyone you know aspiring to create a career in this industry. This podcast truly has become an integral part of helping them succeed through their journey in this career. And if you enjoyed this episode, hey, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss tomorrow's. Blair, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I have to say congratulations, Dane. And really, you're doing a wonderful thing. I'm so glad you found this, and you're really kicking butt. So congrats on that.
Oh, thank you. That really means so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. You deserve it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't miss an episode. I have a new guest 7 days a week. Every guest drops more value and insight than any other resource out there, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a rating and review. Also, be sure to head over to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.